Hello everybody and welcome back to Goalie Hub. I know it's been a while, and as of the time that I'm recording this, the first round of the 2022 draft just came to a close. There were some big surprises that happened, most notably Shane Wright dropping all the way to number 4 to the Seattle Kraken. But for the first time since 2018, there were 0 goalies selected in the first round. And I know I've done this kind of video before over the past 2 years, and I wanted to do it again. And I also wanted to do it before any goalie was selected. So I'm recording this very late at night. So if I look a little bit tired, that's probably why. But like I said, I wanted to get this out before the second day of the draft. So here are my top 10 goalies for the 2022 NHL entry draft. Before we get into my rankings, I do want to mention that if you're brand new to the channel and love goaltending and just hockey in general, then please click that subscribe button and turn on post notifications to get notified whenever I upload a brand new video. And trust me, I'm going to be posting a lot more now. It's summertime, I don't have any school to worry about, so there will be a lot of new videos coming out that you do not want to miss. And while you're at it, you might as well follow me on Instagram. It's at goalie_hub. And one more thing I did want to mention, I did just move, so ignore all the mess behind me. But anyways, here are my top 10 goalies for the draft. Coming in at number 10, I have Czech goaltender MALIK. And I did actually have him on my rankings back in 2020, but he went undrafted, and he also went undrafted last year. But I put him back on my rankings this year because of how well he did in the Liga. So he is 20 years old. He's got a good frame at 6'2", 174 pounds, and I think he'll go somewhere in the 6th or 7th round, like probably a late round pick, as a team might want to take a flyer on him since he's already 20 years old. He's not like a first year eligible player. But here's the reason why I wanted to put him on my rankings. In 34 games in the Liga, he had a 15-9-9 record with a .922 save percentage. And in 14 games in the playoffs, he had a .926 save percentage. He was one of the best goalies in the Liga this year. MALIK played in the Liga this year after playing in the Czech Republic last year, and before that splitting between the OHL and Czechia. And he was able to steal the starting job for his team, and he just took that ice time and ran with it. He was amazing in the Liga, and as you can tell by his record, even in the playoffs, he had to carry his team throughout the playoffs into a deep run. So I believe MALIK honestly has a little bit of potential. I put him so low just because he is 20, and I'm not sure if anyone will actually draft him. They might just rather sign him in free agency or something, but I'm pretty sure he's going to return back to the Liga next year. But either way, he's a really good goalie prospect in my opinion, and he's really underrated, and he had a really good season, which is why I put him at 10. Coming in at number 9, I have Lucas Sweden from Sweden. Pretty sure that's how you pronounce his name, but I might be wrong. Either way, he's 18 years old, and he's a very small goaltender. He's one of the smaller players in this draft at 5'9" and 154 pounds. And I have him going in the late 5th or early 6th round. And he had an alright season over in Sweden's Junior League in the J20 National with 30 games played and a .921 save percentage, as well as 5 games in the playoffs and a .907 save percentage. And he performed well in his one game as backup duty for Team Sweden at the World Under-18s with a .926 save percentage, getting the win. So overall, you look at his stats, and he looks like he has a pretty good stat line, and he puts up some pretty good numbers. But one of the main reasons why I ranked him so low is because of his height. He's only 5'9". He's very, very short. I mean, again, you look at guys like UC Saros in the NHL, even Dustin Wolf, who's like barely 6 feet. They're performing well in the NHL and AHL respectively, but Lucas Sweden is a little bit like almost too short. He's only 5'9", like I said. He could possibly grow an extra inch or two, but we'll have to see how that all pans out. But overall, he could be a good pickup. And one interesting thing is that I haven't really seen him ranked anywhere, probably because of his height, but either way, I have him at number 9. Coming in at number 8 is Czech-born goaltender Jan SPUNAR. He's 18 years old, and he is 6'3", 185 pounds, and I think he'll go somewhere in the mid-5th round. This past year, he spent most of the year in the Czechia U20 League with a .911 save percentage in 31 games, so pretty solid. He also played 2 games of the World Under-18s. Pretty poor stats there, but I'm pretty sure the Czech team was also not quite good defensively. And he also played for Czechia at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, where he still didn't quite have great numbers with an .888 save percentage in 3 games. SPUNAR is an interesting goalie for me. To me, he seems pretty decently developed so far, but I don't think he has any insane upside or anything like that. Like, he could probably be an NHL backup one day, He's got a pretty good frame, and I think next year he's going to be playing in the WHL for the Portland Winterhawks, I believe. So we'll see how he does there, and maybe that'll help his development, and hopefully he can adjust quickly to the North American game. At number 7 on my list is Russian-born goaltender MAXIM MAYOROV. He's 18 years old, and he's a very tall goaltender at 6'5" and 176 pounds, and I think he'll also go somewhere in the 5th round. And this past year, he spent most of the year playing in Russia's top junior league, the MHL. Putting Mayarov on this list is a little bit off the board for me, as he's not really highly ranked among most consensus rankings, but I believe he has a pretty good amount of potential behind it, as he's got that big frame at 6'5", and he put up some pretty stellar numbers on a okay team. As you can tell by his record, it's nothing insane, but it's not like a bad team he played on. But either way, he was probably one of the better players on his team throughout this year in Russia, and I think he'll continue to develop over in Russia for the next few years, and maybe turn into something. We'll see. At number 6 on my list, I have another Russian. This time it is SERGEI MURASHOV. He is 18 years old, and he's a lot shorter than Mayarov, as he's only 6 foot and 157 pounds, so there's definitely room to grow for him there. And I think he'll go somewhere in the late 4th round or early 5th round. And also one thing to note too is that you can tell by the picture, he is a right-handed catching goaltender, which is very rare nowadays. So this past year in the MHL, he played 41 games with a .927 save percentage, as well as an .893 save percentage in 2 playoff games. And he also played for Team Russia at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, where in one game he got a win and posted a very solid .920 save percentage. So for quite some time, I was actually going back and forth on who is the better goaltender between Murashov and Mayarov, and overall I picked Murashov. I think he just has more experience, and even though the numbers are very similar, he was able to play for Team Russia nationally, whereas Mayarov doesn't have that experience this past year. And even though he's shorter, I think he can still thrive. Again, like I mentioned before, guys like UC Saros, who I believe is like 5'11" or 5'10", Dustin Wolf, who's 6 foot, they're putting up really good numbers in their respective leagues, and they're good, prospects. If in Dustin Wolf's case, he's a good prospect. So I think Murashov can kind of follow that trend of shorter goalies being good or just as good as taller goalies. So I think by now teams should understand that and know that Murashov is a good goalie prospect. So at number 5, I have NIKLAS KOKKO from Finland. He is 18 years old, and he's 6'3", 185 pounds, and my projection is somewhere in the 4th round for him. And this past year, he spent most of the season playing in the U20 SM Sarja in Finland, which is their top junior league, where he put up pretty solid numbers, a 17-10-0 record in 29 games, with a .914 save percentage, as well as an .888 save percentage in 6 games played in the playoffs. So he did struggle a little bit in the playoffs, but his regular season was pretty good. He also got a 1-game call-up to the Liga, where he didn't get the start, but he came in as a replacement in 1 game where he stopped all the shots he faced. He also played for Team Finland at the World Under-18s, where in 1 game he had an .895 save percentage, but he did get the win. And he also was Team Finland's starter at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, playing 4 games with an .891 save percentage. KOKKO is an interesting goalie for me because he did get a Liga call-up, which is pretty big, especially at how young he is, at being only 18 years old. And he had some pretty solid numbers. I think next year he's going to continue playing in Finland, probably going to be stepping in more into the Liga, but probably still be playing in the U20 SM Sarja as well. But I definitely expect him to get more time in the Liga next year, so that'll be big for his development. And as for his overall NHL potential, he could be like an NHL backup or a tandem goalie. We'll have to see how that pans out, but he does have the good frame at 6'3", and I know NHL teams, even though I mentioned before that size is beginning to not matter, it still does matter quite a bit, and his 6'3" frame helps with that. Now we're getting into what I call the Big Four, so I think these 4 guys are noticeably better than the rest of the draft class. So at number 4, we have Hugo Havlid from Sweden. He's 18 years old, and he's a smaller goalie at 5'10", 174 pounds. But I think, again, smaller goalies are starting to thrive in today's NHL, so he could be just fine. And I think he'll go somewhere in the late 3rd or early 4th round. As for this year, he played most of the year in the J20 National, Sweden's top junior league, posting a sparkling 1.82 goals against average and a .920 save percentage in 28 games, as well as a .925 save percentage in 8 playoff games. He was also Team Sweden's starter at the World Under-18s, where in 5 games he was very, very good. I believe he took home the top goalie honors as well in that tournament with a .929 save percentage and a 4-1 record. and he also played 3 games for Team Sweden at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, posting an .895 save percentage there. So in some rankings, I've seen Havlat even ranked as high as like 2 or even 1 in terms of best goalies of the draft. I have him here at number 4. I mean, he is a very good goalie prospect. I think size is a little bit of an issue, but it doesn't seem to affect him now, and I don't think it'll be an issue later on. But he does have some developing to do over in Sweden. I think he's still got some pretty good NHL potential though, and could maybe even be an NHL starter one day. Coming in at number 3 on my list, and this is a guy I've actually been following for a couple of years now. It is SERGEI IVANOV from Russia. He is a 5'11" goaltender, 165 pounds, and my projection for him is the 3rd or 4th round. And this past year, he spent most of the year in the MHL with SKA 1946 St. Petersburg, where in 26 games, he posted a great .928 save percentage, and he made a big run in the playoffs as he guided his team to an MHL championship, where in 16 games, he posted a .931 save percentage and a 12-3 record. He also was Team Russia's starter at the Hlinka Gretzky Cup, posting a perfect 3-0 record in 4 games, and he had a .911 save percentage. Now, I started following this guy because last year I saw he played really well at the World Under-18s, and this was, his draft minus 1 year, which is pretty impressive to be playing at that high level already. And he also posted, I believe, a .921 save percentage, despite having around a .500 record on his MHL team last year. So I think this year he's made some pretty good progression, and he deserves his number 3 spot. I think he's got like NHL starter potential. Russia lately has been pumping out some pretty high quality goalie prospects. You think about Andrei Vasilevsky way back in 2012, Ilya Sorokin, Igor Shesterkin, reigning Vezina winner and Hart Trophy finalist, and then obviously more recently Yaroslav Askarov. And Ivanov has a chance to maybe not quite be as good as those guys, but I think he could still be a very good NHL goaltender one day. Going on to the top 2, at number 2, I have Finnish goaltender TOPIAS LEINONEN. He is 18 years old, and he has a massive 6'5", 234-pound frame, and I have him projected to go in the late 3rd or early 4th round. He spent most of this year in the U20 SM Starya, where in 21 games we had a losing record, but despite that he had some pretty solid numbers with a 2.28 goals against average and a .916 save percentage. And he also got a 4-game call-up to the Liga, where he did struggle, but that was to be expected because he is young and inexperienced. And he also played 2 games in the Mestis, where again he did struggle as well, but that is okay. He did get those call-ups, which shows that he is a quality goaltending prospect. He also was Team Finland starter at the World Under-18s, where he was okay with an .897 save percentage in 5 games. Now, one thing that's very interesting to me about Leinonen is his frame. He is 6'5", which is great. I know NHL scouts would love that, but his 234 pounds is definitely very heavy. If he can shed off like maybe 20 pounds, that might be very beneficial to him. 234 is a lot, and it might make him, slower on the ice and make his skating worse. So if he can lose some pounds there, then he might improve his skating and he might be a more agile goaltender. As watching some video of him, he is a decent skater, but I feel like he could be better if he loses a little bit of weight there. So I believe he'll be playing more in the Liga next year and the Mestis next year, so we'll see how he does there. And finally, moving on to my number 1 goalie prospect, and this should be no surprise. This is Tyler Brennan, Canadian goaltender from the WHL. He is 18 years old, and he's got a good frame at 6'4", 190 pounds, and I think he'll go in the 3rd round. This past year with the Prince George Cougars in the 39 games, he had an 11-25-2 record, but he did have an .899 save percentage. And in the playoffs in 4 games, even though his team lost in the 1st round, he had a great .954 save percentage. Absolutely outstanding. Now, I know his regular season numbers probably don't stand out to you, but you got to look at the Prince George Cougars. They were not a very good team this year, and the only reason they made the playoffs is because the WHL has a lot of their teams making the playoffs. I believe there's like 22 teams in the WHL, and 16 of those teams make the playoffs. So despite having a losing record, Prince George made the playoffs, and Tyler Brennan was really, really good in the playoffs despite his team losing. And overall, he's got a very good NHL frame, and he's going to be playing in Prince George next year, so I believe there will be some improvement there as the team improves around him. And overall, I think he could be a quality goaltending prospect and be possibly an NHL starter for one team one day. So that just about wraps up my top 10 goalie prospects for the 2022 draft. look out for these guys to be drafted later today. And I believe that my rankings are fairly accurate. I believe last year, every single goalie I put on my list got drafted pretty close to where I had them going. So we'll see how that ends up this year. I do want to give a little shout out to guys like Thomas Milic, Marco Costantini from the Hamilton Bulldogs, Ian Blomqvist out in Sweden. Those are a couple guys that I considered putting on my list, but I ended up not doing so. So yeah, I hope all of you enjoyed this video. I know it might be a little bit rushed, but I did want to get this out before the second day of the draft started because I do want to continue doing this annually. Look out for this video next year. Hopefully I'll have it done way before the draft. Like I'm talking, you know, a couple of weeks instead of the day of the draft, basically. So that way I'll be able to do a more in-depth analysis on each prospect. But either way, I hope this year's video was okay. And if it was good, then be sure to leave a like on the video and comment down below who your favorite goalie prospect is in this year's draft. I would definitely love to hear your comments. And if you're brand new to the channel and love goaltending and just hockey in general, then please subscribe to the channel and also follow me at goalie_hub on Instagram. There will be a link down below in the description that you can go check out. But anyways, that is all for me today, and I will see you all later.